Good morning. Welcome to the second episode of Claire and Milo Talk About Books. So today we are going to be giving you the bookseller experience, and that means I brought you to work with me. So I'm going to give you a quick tour of my store, of some of my recommendations, and we'll go from there. I work at Arundel Books in historic Pioneer Square, a bookstore that specializes in new, used, and antiquarian books. This is a heritage building with beautiful arches and really gorgeous architecture, and it's a lovely tourist attraction that gets a lot of foot traffic. You can see we also sell these beautiful tote bags that feature the iconic first glimpse of the store when you first walk in the front door. I mostly help curate the science fiction, fantasy, and horror sections because that's my main area of interest. You can see that we have a great display of popular books that I recommend frequently to customers, such as local author Travis Baldry's Legends and Lattes. All three of these books are featured reviews on my website. You can see that I really love Shelf Talkers, which are short recommendations written by a bookseller to help promote the books they love. A bookseller can't be everywhere, and this means that customers are still able to tell which books we recommend highly and why. I often like to write a catchy phrase inviting the customer in, make a note of any awards or accolades the book has won, and then briefly explain why I love the book so much, and I think they will too. Because my store is smaller, you can see it's very curated to the tastes of the staff and what we think people will enjoy. I've also got a fantastic horror display featuring many other books you can read reviews for on my website. My coworker made this cute little duck to keep everyone motivated, so I just thought I'd show off how cute it is. On Wednesdays we go for lunch and we get bubble teas. So we've had a tour of my bookstore. So now we're going to have a tour of MILO'S bookstore.
Come with me on an adventure into the halls of learning at my bookstore.
You can hold it.
Should I hold it?
Yeah.
Hi. Okay, prop him up. Okay, come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. Got it. Okay. Hello and welcome to my bookstore. This is University Bookstore in the U District of Seattle, and I'm just going to show you around a little bit today. So feel free to come on along. So the first place I take customers who are looking for a book is over here to the staff favorites, aka the coolest part of the store because it has all the books that we think are the coolest. I really like writing recommendations for things. I try to kind of point out the things I think people will be most excited about. A big one right now is The Employees. This is one of my favorite books of all time. It's super weird. It's science fiction, corporate dystopia, but it's very artistic and poetic, and it's based on an actual sculpture collection. So after you read the book, you can look up the sculpture collection and see like what it's based on, because it's about this spaceship crew interacting with a bunch of strange objects.
Which of these are yours?
This one is mine. The Familiar is mine. Martyr is mine. This book is so amazing. It caused me to snot weep into my cat. That is a true story. Jawbone is mine. So scary. The Ministry of Time, really good. Ghost Station, S.A. Barnes is fantastic. A Woman of Pleasure by Kyoko Murata is phenomenal. Welcome to the other side of the staff favorites display. We're here because I want to show off one of my favorite books of all time. This is Everything for Everyone, an oral history of the New York Commune 2052 to 2072. So this is speculative fiction, but it's written as if it were an oral history taken in the future about this period of massive social, environmental, economic change where most of the world kind of takes up a sort of anarcho-communist style of living and governance. And it's about like that revolution as it happened in New York City. And it's, I was fairly hopeless about climate change and the economy and my own, what I would see in my own lifetime at the time that I found this book. And after I read it, it helped me imagine a different future. And I really couldn't recommend it highly enough. Most stores will have a staff faves area, and I think that's the place you should go first. That's where I always go first in a bookstore, because then you get to see people's hot takes, their recommendations, and these people read a lot of books, so they're probably good ones. Okay, come with me into the science fiction section. Over here we have fiction, which goes to horror, romance, and mystery. So this is kind of the genre zone, and here in SFF is where I spend most of my hard-earned dollars and a lot of time too, but I do buy a lot of books at my own store. Is kind of one of the dangers, I think, of the industry. So one thing I like to do at work is I like to go a little bit overboard making shelf talkers. So for instance, one of my shelf talkers here for Child's Dart has our little Phaedra and a little quote from it, because I try to make something eye-catching so that people will take a moment to pause, look at a book. I have a couple others. I have one over here. It also gives me a great excuse to do a little doodle while I'm at work. And I'm gonna face out that book so people know what I'm talking about with my little tag. And then my favorite one is this one for Gideon the Ninth, with our little Gideon and our little Harrow. And Gideon is saying, "At your service, O gloom mistress." I wanted to put a cuss in that, but I thought I might get in trouble with the boss, so I kept it G-rated.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
I can't believe you drew that.
I love them. I care about her, and I love to do my little doodles. I'm showing you one more thing before I need to clock back in. So we started this on Independent Bookstore Day in Seattle.
Wow.
This is the Draw Your Favorite Character board, and as you can see, people went nuts. People drew their favorite characters from books, movies, anime, TV, anything. And as you can see, there's now, since Independent Bookstore Day in May, everyone has wanted to be part of this. So we have everything from these people's yaoi to I have somewhere in here I have, because the employees like to start these off because it makes people a little bit less shy about contributing. I don't even know where she is anymore. I had Phaedra of Child's Dart fame, but at this point, so solidly contributed to that it just feels like a cool way, like you can just see how many people passed by and were like, oh, that's fun. And you can tell people who are like pretty stoked about their art, they were like, yeah, I gotta get in there, show them what I've got.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's incredibly cool.
And that's my bookstore. As you can see, I'm in terrible mortal danger. And we'll see you next time.
So our bookseller experience challenges for tonight is we've each picked 3 books. We each have 1 ARC and then 2 books that we recommend at work. So we are going to be telling you all about 3 books, and we're going to be recommending them to each other in the style that we would do at work as booksellers.
Yeah, we're really excited about it.
We're really excited.
So
we can't wait.
tune on in.
Yeah. Okay, what is your philosophy about being a bookseller?
Okay, I'm really excited about this question.
Yeah.
Because, so I recently became a buyer at my store.
I love that.
I'm no longer doing all like floor book selling or all events. I'm now also buying new releases for children.
Yeah.
As well as like replenishing our back stock. And so my philosophy in that has been to create a place where people can find a little treasure wherever they look.
I love that.
I don't know. I like the idea of a bookstore being a place where someone can kind of escape a little bit from the doldrums of like whatever's going on in their life, go into a place and like find. This is the magic of brick and mortar, right? Because when you're like browsing online, you're getting suggested things that are based on the last thing you read, and it's much more
like
algorithmic.
an algorithm, yeah.
But then, you know, I love this idea of going into a bookstore, spotting a book, being like, I never would have thought of this, yet it resonates with something in me, and suddenly you want to learn how to do Icelandic knits, or you want to read about ghosts in space. Like it's just, I love that, and I love like curating that treasure chest. You know?
Yeah, I think so too, and I think there's something about a human bookseller that I think a human will always be better at in the moment helping you find something than an algorithm, because an algorithm can't offer you the type of experience that I think a human can suggest for you. And like, not that you can't find good books through like online shopping, through corporate, you know, retail websites, but I think that what indie bookstores really bring to the community is so huge. And that also kind of plays into my philosophy as a bookseller as well, which is I feel like when people come into my store, because like my store is in a high foot traffic area, it's in an area where we get, again, especially in the summer, we get a lot of tourism. A lot of people are coming off the train. They're coming, either they're going to leave on a cruise, they're coming back from cruises, or they're local people that work in my area. And so we have a mix of tourists and locals. And my philosophy as a bookseller is I really want to help people find the type of experience that they're looking for out of a book. And whether that's like a fun summer thing, like you're like, oh, I want a book to read for the summer, or it's something, you know, where they're, you know, I had a guy come in once and be like, hey, my partner passed away, you know, I want something to distract me. Like, that was an intense one. Like, people are looking for books for all kinds of reasons, and I really pride myself on being able to help people find a reading experience for almost any type of book that they want to read, right? Yeah. And it's fun because you get to cultivate these relationships with customers, people coming back. You know, I have a lot of people that come back and they're like, oh, I loved it, like, thank you so much. Like, so far I haven't had anyone be like, this was terrible, how dare you. I've had postcards.
Tell them about the postcard.
Yeah, I had a couple send a postcard, Canadian couple who were like, oh my gosh, like, this bookseller recommended this book, this was so great. And I was like, this is so great. This is delightful. So delightful.
This is so delightful.
Yeah, so I think, you know, the experience of being a bookseller, like, I feel like you do have, or especially if you are an indie bookseller and you're kind of a community bookseller, you have that responsibility to, at least in my mind, to really help people find something that they'll find fulfilling.
Yeah, it's just a little joy of life.
Yeah.
Everyone needs a little bit of joy in their life, you know? I have to put Claire on blast for a second because of her skills. I've never seen anyone with the ability to convince someone that they need an object or story in their life with the alacrity that Claire brings to the situation. Like, I always say, what is that? You have book sense.
Hey,
so, like,
thanks.
she has a really good sense for what's about to be popular. But you could also point at, like, a desiccated toaster on the wall and be like, you need that. And if you talk to me, I would be like, yeah, overhaul the kitchen. She's really good.
Thank you.
You're good at making the human connection.
Appreciate that. Yeah, because I think bookselling is about connection. Actually, Milo was asking what book did I suggest for the grieving customer, and it was actually this book, which is The Last Unicorn. This is one of my favorite books. It's by Peter Beagle, and I love this book so much. It's just such a beautiful meditation on grief and loss and how to keep going when you feel like your life is, you know, lacking meaning. And it's just a really incredible book. I highly recommend it to anyone of any age without reservation. So this is honestly one of my top recommendations at the store. I love this book so much. I have, actually behind me, I have a whole collection of Peter Beagle because I love him so much. So yeah, that was my recommendation for anyone who's experiencing grief and is looking for specifically fantasy. So one of the things that we were going to talk about today is like, what are some of our favorite parts of the job? Do you want to go first?
Yes.
Yeah, tell what are your favorite parts of the job?
I have one big favorite. It's that you work with incredibly cool people.
Yes.
I've worked at 2 bookstores now, and I've also worked assorted other jobs. And it is so unique the way, like, basically everyone I've ever worked at a bookstore with, they're like some kind of like artistic soul who's like secretly makes wood cuttings, or like they like have a secret affinity for like raptor husbandry. That is a Claire call it a little bit.
There you go. I did used to
have been a falconer
work with a falconer.
So like what I'm saying is, with these very obscure examples of people I've worked with, is that it's just like a profoundly creative and passionate group of people.
We're an eclectic bunch.
And like kind of weird people.
We are weird.
I'm not gonna
so
lie to you, like kind of weird people.
We're weird.
But when you're weird people and you get into that environment, and then you get to just
you're in
kind
a
of
microcosm of weird.
Yeah, you get to kind of
people.
hang out with people who like you have genuinely super interesting conversations with all the time. And if you're like me and you're a little shy to break the ice sometimes, you can always turn to your new coworker and be like, so what do you like to read? And then they talk for 28 minutes passionately about
what they like to
read. Because that's the kind of people are drawn into this industry who just kind of have that vibe. I just love it. Ooh la la.
Okay, so I agree with all that, so I'm not going to rehash it. And one of my other favorite things about being a bookseller is that if you request items from publishers, sometimes they will send them to you.
It's the best.
It's the best.
Rules.
So I generally, thank you Orbit, thank you so much. I generally have better luck with Orbit than any other publisher. So I could not wait to rip these open earlier today when they arrived. So unfortunately this is on an unboxing and opening, but Milo hasn't seen them.
It's a vampire unboxing.
Yeah, that's right.
Because they lived again and then they went back into the coffin and now they're coming back.
So this is honestly because, so booksellers, we are allowed to request advanced copies of books. So they're often called ARCs or advanced reading copies, which is what these are. And so I genuinely never know what's going to show up. Sometimes I get an email telling me what's coming. Sometimes things genuinely just arrive for me, and I'm like, hey.
Yeah, I get some weird stuff sometimes.
This one, I'm so excited about it. Okay, this is Sorcery and Small Magics.
Oh,
isn't that beautiful?
it's gorgeous.
And I'm so excited about this. Okay, so this comes out in October, which is my birth month. And this is a fantastic little kind of like, it's a charming debut. It seems like it's a bit of a cozy rivalry book. So I'm so excited. I really, really can't wait for this one. So this one I'm really excited about.
That sounds like a hoot.
I know. And this one I'm also incredibly excited about as well. I was hoping, they sent an e-ARC as well, so I've already started it, but I prefer a physical copy. This one is The Scarlet Throne, and I'm so excited. The thing that drew me to it originally was the cover. It's so beautiful. And this one is coming out in September. So I'll give you a little bit more information later about these, but getting ARCs is so fun.
Oh, it's like you get a little gift.
You get little gifts from the publisher. And these are, they're fun, but they're also a really important part of providing an experience for customers, because what this allows you to do is you are able to read a book early. You're able to figure out if it's something that you want to order for your store. You can start hyping it. You can start getting people to pre-order it, because first week sales are really important for authors, especially debut authors. And it gets that word of mouth kind of going like right out the gate, so that like these authors have good first week sales. And again, that's also why pre-orders are important. This video isn't really about that, but it is important to pre-order books. It's why authors ask you to do it, publishers ask you to do it, and it's also why we as booksellers will often ask you to do it, because it just helps the authors so much. And sometimes, I could be wrong about this, but I think sometimes whether a series will continue is so contingent on like early sales. It's like TV shows on Netflix. It's the same idea. So Yeah.
It's a really good way to show up for things that matter.
Yeah, and it's a really good way to show up for things that matter.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna go first. So what we're gonna do is we are going to kind of, just for fun, pitch books to you like we would do at work. So I thought quickly before we get started, I'm gonna talk a little bit about how I greet customers at work and kind of ask if they want a recommendation. So when people come in, I am like, hi, how are you? Welcome in. Actually, it's so ingrained in me to do that. My husband and I were coming home one night in the elevator and the door like slid open and a woman got in the elevator and I was like, hi, how are you? Welcome in. To this woman in my building who got in the elevator and she gave me like kind of a side eye and then I had to apologize to her and I was like, I swear I'm not weird. I don't generally welcome people to the elevator. It's just such a reflex to just be like, hi, how are you? Welcome in. Because I really do think, so in my store, the counter is literally right next to the open door. And part of my job is I greet people like when they come in. Mm-hmm. So I do my greeting, not in the elevator. And I say like, just let me know if I can help you find anything or you need a recommendation. And often people, they do. They want a recommendation. And so what I'll do then is, actually earlier in the video, you can see that I had, so the counter is here and I had books on the side of the counter and those are kind of like my favorites. And then if people walk around that way and they're interested in any of those, I can kind of recommend things that are my favorite without even having to leave the counter. It's very efficient and it just lets me keep an eye on the store. But sometimes people will ask me for a recommendation and I will kind of help them figure it out. I'll narrow it down. And then I will give them a pitch or a couple pitches based on what I think that they would really enjoy. So our bookseller challenge for this was we wanted to choose 3 books that we were going to recommend to you. And one of them had to be an ARC. So those advanced reading copies, those books that we get from publishers, and 2 of them have to be books that we recommend at work, that we recommend a lot. So I'm going to recommend this one. It's called Dungeon Crawler Carl. And actually Milo is doing event planning for this. So we are going to have a really cool video about how they planned an event for the traditional release of this book. So you can see I have my early bookseller finished copy as well as my ARC. So I'm just gonna set this here.
I have to say the graphic design on that cover is phenomenal.
It's incredible. It is incredible. I'll have a close-up so you can see it a little better, but this is a fantastic book. So actually, before I start pitching it to you, so we decided that we are going to have a stopwatch, and so we are going to give you two-minute recommendations. I'm going to set this for 2 minutes and 15 seconds. So obviously, because we're at work, I mean, I could talk about this book for 10 minutes or more, but we're trying to do like recommendations how we would pitch them at work. Because we are working, we can't spend endless amounts of time with customers. So, okay, hit start. This is Dungeon Crawler Carl, and I really enjoyed this book because I've never read anything that was so kind of like, I felt like it was a sort of a spiritual successor to Douglas Adams. So if anyone here has ever read any Douglas Adams, you'll enjoy this. And when I first got a copy of this book and I kind of had a look at it, I was like, this is either going to be awful or amazing because it's described as lit RPG, right? So it kind of assumes that you have some knowledge of Dungeons and Dragons or some kind of other, video games where you are essentially in a dungeon, defeating enemies and powering up, leveling up, and going to the next area. So I was like, this could be super monotonous and like full of really like, mediocre jokes. And it's kind of, maybe I was so wrong. I take it back. This book was amazing. So it is about a Coast Guard veteran named Carl and his ex-girlfriend's cat, Princess Donut. And it's actually set in Seattle, which is cool. The author's from Seattle. He lives here. And the very opening pages of this book are set in Seattle. And very quickly, the world is destroyed. And it's not a spoiler. It literally says it on the back. And this man and his cat, who I won't kind of spoil that, how she becomes this like sentient murder machine, they compete in these like galactic televised trials to try and essentially get their planet back. If you can make it to level 18 of the dungeon, then you can file an appeal for the I think it's like this galactic federation that was like, well, we're taking all these resources. This book is so bonkers. It's so funny. It's so exciting. Princess Donut is probably one of my favorite. I've added her to my list of new favorite literary cats. And I just feel like this book is pure fun. It's pure fun. It's really exciting. And if you are a fan of RPGs, if you like this type of video game, if you play... All right, almost done. I'm gonna give myself 10 more seconds. If you like lit RPGs and you want something that's just really enjoyable, this is your book. You want Dungeon Crawler Carl. Ta-da!
Really
that was 2 minutes and 15 seconds.
It was good. The merciful 15.
Would you buy this?
Oh yeah.
Based on my recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, especially the spiritual successor to Douglas Adams, powerful.
Powerful.
Secondly, snaring people with that RPG tie-in. I feel like that's very popular at the moment.
We love an RPG.
It's hot on the mind. Baldur's Gate 3 just recently-ish out.
Yeah.
Lots of people playing D&D right now.
Yeah.
We do RPGs sometimes.
You've been infected with the vigorous measles.
No.
Don't you want to know what happens after you get infected with the vigorous measles?
I don't know if I do.
Yeah, highly recommend.
But
you could find out, and you
Tell
will.
us.
So this book is not technically out till August the 27th, but you should get a copy.
It's coming.
It's really good. All right, you can start.
All right. This is Metal from Heaven by August Clark. It comes out the 22nd October 2024, and I think you should pre-order it now, and here's why. It's the story of a young woman undertaking an epic revenge quest fueled by psychedelic magic and socioeconomic rage.
Yes.
To take down the man who killed her family and most of her, like, town and her loved ones while viciously putting down a labor riot when she was a child. So it's the story of her revenge, but it's also the story of so much more. It's about anarchist utopia. It's about queer love and queer relationships and all of the unconventional and beautiful shapes they can take. It is about how the people we love change and how we reckon with that change, how we change as well. It has a lot of really interesting world building, cool conversations about like gender, really excellent representations of queer people in this fantasy world, and I love this book so much that if you look inside this arc,
Ooh. Oh my god.
you'll see that I blurbed it. They sent me a really early copy to do this blurb, and I was so obsessed with it that I wrote a blurb in the most flowery language I possibly could, because I literally couldn't stop thinking about it. So we'll put a little picture of that in or something.
We will.
And
10 seconds.
with 10 seconds left to go, I'm gonna say, please, 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 please. I want them to write more, so you should buy it, yes.
Hey.
Would you buy this book?
Yes!
After that pitiful little
Please,
begging I
please,
did.
please. Oh.
Yeah, that's what I do when I want customers to buy a book. I look at them with my big wallaby eyes and I say, please, please, please.
You know, not only would I buy that book, I've actually already pre-ordered it, and the publisher sent me an e-arc. So that's an arc that you can read on your e-reader. So I'm about a quarter of the way through it on MILO'S recommendation. So that one worked on me for sure. That one definitely worked on me because I'm really enjoying it. This book, I'm not gonna pitch it since Milo just did. Bonkers. Bonkers. You thought Game of Thrones had a high death count of people that you cared about?
Yeah.
There were honestly, like, when I say jaw-dropping, I mean, like, literally, I was staring at the book like what?
It does not pull punches.
It does not pull any punches, and it's very powerful. Yeah. It's a really powerful
fantastic book.
It's so good.
Fantasy, anarcho-communism.
Yes.
I've now mentioned anarcho-communism 2 times in the video.
We have to do it once
and
more.
we're going for 3.
Do it again. At least one more time. This is my second pick. So I'm going to talk about Silvia Moreno Garcia's The Seventh Veil of Salome, and I actually had an arc of this as well. This book is out, and I also have the finished copy. So you can see, actually we did an event, both of us with Silvia. We'll have a video about it. Yeah. You can see that I got her to sign it when she came to Seattle. But we both actually collaborated on both of Silvia's last 2 book launches. So for Silver Nitrate and also for this, The Seventh Veil of Salome. So I really wanted to talk more about this because I genuinely can't get enough of this book, and I tried to pick what were my top recommendations currently at work, and this is one of them. So I'm just gonna pop this right here.
That'll be foreshadowing.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna set my timer here. So this is Silvia Moreno Garcia's new book, The Seventh Veil of Salome, and one of the reasons that Silvia is my favorite author, she's pretty much an auto-buy author for me, is because every single thing she writes is very different than the last thing. Her books often, so this one is actually, unlike a lot of her other work that's like horror, kind of a mix of fantasy, this one is a historical epic. So it's set in 2 timelines. So it's set in the biblical era. So we actually get to meet the biblical princess Salome and kind of see her life as it really happened. And then we kind of jump to the 1950s, Hollywood, and we get to meet a young Mexican actress who is portraying Salome in the film. And it's really interesting because this is it's a story about women. It's a story about power. It's a story about how women do not have power unless they take it through men and the means that they have to grasp it. And it's also the story of a princess whose life is ultimately a tragedy because of her lack of choice and her lack of autonomy. And she does the best she can with the choices that she makes, and it's really, really incredible to see the parallels between this young Mexican actress who's portraying Salome in a film and Salome herself. And I just think that nobody writes like Silvia. You will never read another book like this. I can't even think of another book to compare this to. She genuinely every single book is different that she writes. And I think that one of the things that she does so beautifully is she writes incredible character-driven stories about especially women who feel very real and whose stories, like, I have read this book already 3 times. I loved it so much. And if you are looking for a great historical epic, if you're interested in the film industry in the 1950s, Silvia has a huge amount of knowledge about that. And she actually has a really cool playlist that you can listen to while you read this. This is the book that you want. It is a book about women and their struggles and how they take back power. Hey!
That was spot on.
2 minutes and 15 seconds. So this is Silvia Moreno Garcia, and this is The Seventh Veil of Salome. That's one of my top picks at work. We both got books signed for our bookstore, so I've been part of one of my pitches. Hey, we have signed copies of the first edition, first printings. So
do we. So order.
Order, yeah. We sell a lot of these at work.
It's my little computer.
All right.
The golden age of Hollywood glamour.
Incredible.
It's a big sell. Like, people love reading about that.
Yeah. I genuinely, she is an auto buy for me. I can't recommend her work highly enough.
Yeah, she's fantastic. Okay, so I broke the rules. I have to admit this. I am
No, your book, you have an invisible book.
I have wait, hang on, this might take just a second.
They have an e-copy of their book. They're reading it on there, e-reader.
this might.
Also, I just want to take a quick minute to say, e-readers, audiobooks, it's all reading. It's all a valid way to read. We do not discriminate. So if you are listening to the audiobook, that is a perfectly valid way to read a book, to listen to a book.
To audiobooks rules.
It's the best. We love.
Especially if you got one of those data entry forward jobs. Oh yeah, you can just
we love an audiobook.
Listen to your audiobook.
You know, that is something that I also do at work, is when I am talking to people about books, I also, if I liked the audiobook, I will also recommend the audiobook as well.
Because some of them are like really remarkably like voice acted. And,
incredible. Incredible.
Makes a real difference.
It does.
It's like a totally different reading experience.
All right.
It's cool. Okay, here we go.
Wait.
Let me explain why I'm breaking the rules.
Okay.
I'm breaking the rules because this book is not out yet. So
another
I'm doing 2 arcs.
Okay, that's fine. 2 arcs is fine.
Because I'm evil.
2 arcs is fine.
It's a double arc Wednesday.
So what's the book?
The book is, let me go back. The book is The Hysterical Girls of St. Bernadette's.
Oh.
Which you can see
Here it is.
It is by Hannah Alkoff. And here's why you should give it a read this fall.
All right, your timer's on.
All right. The Hysterical Girls of St. Bernadette's is a young adult kind of horror mystery thriller.
Oh my God.
It is a young adult book, but it has huge crossover potential to the adult market. There's lots of, reading this as no longer a teen, I am equally as chilled and thrilled as I think I would have been as a teen.
I love that.
This is a story about an all-girls school in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And all of a sudden, the school is struck by an outbreak of mass hysteria.
Oh my God.
This is a documented phenomenon. This does happen.
Yeah.
Girls in their classes start screaming unprovoked, and it kind of shakes the school to its core. This is a prestigious institution. They have a really sterling reputation. They're super concerned about what's going on with these students, but no one seems to really want to talk about it. And one of the lead characters is a young woman whose sister is one of the screamers.
Oh.
And she starts investigating, trying to get to the bottom of what's going on after she finds out this is the second time this has happened. It's happened before, and the last time a girl disappeared. So the whole premise just kind of immediately, I was drawn in when I read the description. There are a couple other things I really love about this book. I love that it's a story that centers really deeply on the relationships between girls, like teenage girls. The relationships between like girls and their moms is also a big part of this book, and how that can be like a really complicated, fraught, intense relationship.
5 seconds.
Oh no, there's so much more to say. It's so good.
Keep going.
The eeriness and fright of being a girl growing into a woman, and the intensity of that, and it's a fantastic book, and it also takes you outside US, Canada, Britain to Malaysia. It's not Eurocentric. This book rules. You should read it.
I'm gonna request it.
I really recommend it.
I can't wait.
I read a lot of horror.
Yeah.
And like, this isn't like blood, gore, skull flinging, spine cracking horror or anything.
It's a girl screams.
It's a girl screams horror. But like, imagine if that happened to you.
Yeah, that's scary.
If you were sitting in class and your classmate just like started uncontrollably screaming. Like,
yeah, mass hysteria is real. That's why I was like, I had a shocked reaction, because this is a documented phenomenon. It's so interesting, and I'm so glad that there's a book that talks about it.
Yeah.
So I can't wait.
It really goes into kind of exploring
female psychology
and the psychology of just, and the sort of the way girls have to repress a lot of really horrific things that often happen as like growing young women. And how that
I can't wait.
Resurgence.
So. I can't wait. And as soon as we're done, I'm gonna go request it. That's amazing.
Yeah. All right.
Cool. Okay. So I think we each have one more.
We do.
So this is my third choice, and you can see I actually have two copies of it here. This one is Black River Orchard. It's by Chuck Wendig. And this is a paperback. It's not an ARC at all. You can see that I got this far into it before I had a freak out and decided I needed a signed first edition versus printing, which is this, this here. So you can see that he signed it. Actually, this only cost me, guess,
$33.02.
$13.
No.
On Mercari. Yeah.
It's a smoking deal.
I know it was. I was really excited. This is such a good deal. But this is an incredible book, and I was a bit late to the party on this one. And I actually ordered it on a whim because at one point Milo had the ARC in their possession, and I remember being like, "Are you interested in this? Are you gonna read this?" And they were like, "Oh yeah." That's what I remember.
Yeah, and then I lost it.
And then
I lost it. I had to move offices and I lost it.
Yeah, they lost it. Anyway, so it was always in the back of my mind as an interesting concept. So I decided to order a copy for the store, and I bought the copy that I ordered into my store. And I read about 5 pages, and I was like, this is it. This is a book for me. So I would describe. Oh wait, I should turn on my
timer.
Yeah, I know. I'm already getting carried away. This is how you know you're a bookseller.
Bound by the laws of this land.
Our timer. Okay. All right. So I would describe this as modern folktale horror, and it is a book about colonialism and American history, which I'm Canadian, so I didn't really learn as much about in school. So I found this very fascinating. And it's about heritage, people who search for their heritage apples. It's got a lot of really interesting kind of like colonial information about indigenous people that lived in the United States. And it is a book about, there's kind of the biblical metaphor of the apple kind of giving you what you want. And it's essentially about a man whose family owns a historical orchard, and they regain it after it's been lost from their family possession, and they have these heritage apples that they grow, and they are addictive, and they make people feel smarter and stronger, and it almost becomes a cult around this man who's selling these apples, and you quickly find out that there's something sinister at play. And this book is so scary. It's so creepy. Like Milo, I read a lot of horror, and I have been telling people this is your perfect spooky summer read to kind of prepare you for fall, prepare you for autumn, and I am just completely obsessed. And this book actually, so it takes place, it goes month by month. So it takes you through every month, I think almost through an entire year, of how this town of Harrow is slowly infected by these apples, and you watch it play out in 600 pages of real time, and you're uncovering these mysteries, and it jumps around a little bit in time, and there's a segment that's written from the perspective of a cat, and it's just the most interesting book about a psychological descent into kind of perhaps a Faustian bargain, some kind of madness, maybe some demonic activity. And it is incredible. This book is incredible, and I genuinely, before I was even halfway through, I was like, if I do not own a signed first edition first printing of this, I will combust. There it is. Can you tell? This is my 2-minute pitch. Can you tell I do this?
You have this down to
all the time.
Precision.
At work. It's because my boss, and he's good that he does this, he should do this. He was like, Claire, you can't just talk to customers all the time. So I've refined my 2 minutes.
Yeah.
A 2-minute pitch.
Concise Cupid's arrow.
You have to. But this book is genuinely incredible, and I think that if you're looking for a spooky book, Black River Orchard, amazing.
Well, that review definitely made me regret losing the book. I might have to seek out another copy now, because that sounds fascinating.
You can have the paperback when I'm done with it.
I would love that. Yeah, so Claire's a big apple enthusiast.
It's my favorite bedtime snack, and you know what? I have stopped eating apple. I had to stop eating apples while I was reading this, because the way he describes the effect of this apple on these people, it's so insane. It put me off eating apples while I was reading this.
Even though you were a Cosmic Crisp,
it's a Washington apple
aficionado. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's
a local brand.
A student from the University of Washington who was studying
arboreal
something. Yeah, I was gonna be like, I'm gonna make up a word. It's fantasy tree making.
I don't know. Arborista. That's right. When you're a coffee maker who made a tree.
There you go. We're gonna go with that. But no, genuinely, he was telling me all about how they were grafting and making these Cosmic Crisp. And actually, I'm glad I knew about that, because I learned so much about
That's so cool.
Yeah, this book is the amount of research that went into this book, amazing.
It's awesome.
Incredible. I absolutely adore this book. But yes, highly recommend. But yeah, my 2-minute pitch, unbeatable.
It's really good. I feel like I gotta...
Would you buy this?
Like, oh man, well now, yes. Even though once upon a time I said, pshaw, I don't need...
I'll get rid of it.
How about them apples? Is what I'm saying now. Because I'm gonna have to read this book. I thought I'd be able to resist. I really did.
No, you can't.
No.
Spooky apple.
Yeah.
Spooky apple.
It's spooky and fruity. And that's my favorite kind of literature.
Oh my god. Alright, so this is
my third recommendation.
Okay, go ahead.
Alright, so this is Archangels of Funk by Andrea Hairston. I heard about this book because Andrea was a guest at an event we attended.
We did.
With a really cool panel of authors. TJ Klune was there, Nevo was there. Who's the author of Treason Tea?
Rebecca Thorne.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I had not heard about this book when I went to see Andrea's event. And this is like the poster child for me of why you should still like go to an event, like give a chance to an event that maybe you're not as familiar with the author's work, or with all the author's work, because after she pitched this, she gave genuinely the most cosmically delightful presentation at this event, and I was like, I have to read this. I cannot go on without it. And I'm so glad I did, because reading this, I've been reading a chapter of this book every night.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
And yeah, it's been the perfect way to read it, because it just kind of helps me like simmer down at the end of the day. This is a book about the future, the near future though. And we're talking about the consequences of climate change and the consequences of kind of out of control corporations, but on an extremely personal level. This is science fiction, but it's also about art. And I think primarily I would say it's about art. The author is actually a, I think retired or maybe current professor of theater.
Yeah.
And what the story is about is the main character and her circus bots, who are these kind of like AI creations that she's made. And they're sort of, here goes number 3, anarcho-communist co-op.
There it is.
Putting together something called Festival, which is an annual occasion where she honors her like direct ancestors and kind of like brings the community together for a wild day of theater and dance. And last year didn't go so well, and this year she needs it to be the best festival. And that kind of plays in with some plot lines about big tech and lost love, and how resource scarcity makes people a lot harder on each other, but how there's a strong theme in this book that's like, you know, the world is changing, but thinking of this as a like apocalypse, a time of darkness, a time of despair, that's only going to dig us deeper in the hole. We need to dig ourselves out of it with art and and care for each other. And
amazing.
so it's a remarkable work of, I would call it Afrofuturism a little bit, science fiction, but also like if you
hope punk kind of.
Hope punk was the perfect word, actually. Also, there's a robot dog in it. Also, there's another dog, and the dogs get POV chapters.
I love that.
Also, great descriptions of food and bicycling and the forest and love and
15 seconds.
You know what? I'm gonna wrap it up by saying, if you've ever been to like a really excellent like theater in the park, or like even a like rock concert, and you left feeling really hopeful about art and the world, even though it's like freaking messed up, this might be the darn book for you, pal. It's really remarkable, and it's the perfect way to like end has been the perfect way to end my day, and end up feeling a little bit better about where we're at. You know?
It was perfect. Yeah. Thank you for that recommendation. Yeah. You know what? So we went to this event, and actually I think it was like a tour recorded as a podcast. We will link it.
Oh, you should totally listen to it.
We will link it.
It ruled.
She was amazing. I mean, the whole lineup was incredible. I had actually never heard of this author either. And she was so explosive and exciting, and she was so excited about her book, and she was so excited to share it. I genuinely regret not buying it when I went, because I was...
You should read this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna read it. I do have the ebook.
Oh, nice.
I got the ebook. But I had so many books already at the event that I had to get signed for friends and for myself. And like, I think I lined up for every single author. But yeah, that's definitely an author that I heard her talk about her book, and I was like, wow. And again, building on our last episode, this is why you should attend literary events when you can, when it's convenient for you.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know the author, if you haven't read the book, if you were interested in it, give them the opportunity to pitch their book, because nobody knows it better than them.
Yeah.
Nobody will sell it better than them, except me.
That's true.
Nobody will sell it better than them, except for me. And possibly.
Oh, I don't know about that. She's got that bookseller.
No,
uncanny bookseller.
But they have, they have been the ones for a year or more or longer that have been gestating and brought this book to life, and they will tell you about it. And, I think that some of the best books I've ever picked up that were a surprise, it was because the author was like, you need this in your life. And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. I genuinely do.
I deeply recommend giving that podcast a listen.
I'm going to link it.
Because just the way, she was just... Everyone, the full room applauded every time she finished it.
Every time she was,
it was a banger every time.
Yeah, she had so much energy. She was so excited. Incredible. Yeah. Incredible. You can tell she has a theater background.
Oh, for sure.
She had the ability to get the energy in the room. It just was amazing.
It was fantastic.
It was incredible.
Give it a read.
Yeah, Archangels of Funk, everybody. Yeah. So this has been the second episode of Claire and Milo Talk About Books. I hope that you have enjoyed us talking about books.
What else?
About books. And yeah, I'll put up some links to some of these books that we were talking about, and if any of them sound interesting to you, add them to your Goodreads or your Storygraph or however you keep track of books, and or your library Overdrive app. I'm not sure what everyone's using these days. Libby
is a great library.
Yeah. And one last thing, so would you have any advice for someone that was thinking about becoming a bookseller?
Oh boy.
Just a quick one.
That's
something important about this job that you think that people should know before they get into it.
That's a great question. Let your heart be open to things you didn't expect to love.
Yes.
I found this with books. I never expected to be super into the horror genre.
Yeah.
And then I also, you see a cover of something often enough, you're like, I ought to crack that thing open.
Yeah.
And it's almost the same with people.
That's true,
actually. Let your heart be open.
We like that. No, that's really good
advice. And you kind of, I don't know, retail can be tough, but...
Retail is very tough. I feel like my whole demeanor...
Oh, yeah.
Retail can be punishing.
Yeah, retail is it's no joke. It's hard in a lot of ways, but don't let that little that little lily in your heart droop and die. Because if you keep it open, like people and books and your colleagues and the person who sets up the beautiful displays in your store and the weather outside and your customer's dog will surprise you.
Yeah, I think so too.
What's yours?
I think that some advice that I would have for people getting into this industry is to read a lot about things you enjoy. Don't feel like you have to read things because you're like, oh, I need to read more literature just for the sake of reading it. I think that we're busy, people don't have a lot of time, and I think that you should focus on reading things that bring you joy, and I think that you should be passionate about sharing those things, and don't be ashamed of your passion for books and for this industry, because I think that passion is like one of the biggest things that you can bring to the table as a bookseller. And obviously you can't sustain that all the time, all day at work, but I think that just kind of nurturing that, it really helps you connect with people.
Yeah, we were just talking earlier about how retail is often looked at as like unskilled labor, a revolting phrase employed only to denigrate workers, by the by.
It's a weird intersection between, you have to have a lot of very specific literary knowledge to be good at this job, I think, and also you have to be good at retail. You have to be good at customer service, dealing with people, reading people's moods, making snap judgments about what people might want to read, whether they want to be left alone. It's just making those really quick connections. So I
consider booksellers, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but I truly consider booksellers to be artisans. It's a... it takes a lot of care.
It does. It takes, you do have to care, I think, to be good at this job.
Which can be a little painful at times, but oh man, really rewarding.
We love books.
Yeah. We love books. One thing to know about us is we love books.
We love books. Yeah. So thank you so much for tuning in today, and we will see you next week.
Yes. Catch you next time.
Bye. Anymore. Yes.
Welcome to my crib.
That's my house.
I'm counting.
Okay. All right.
Hi, welcome to Robot Hour.
Beep beep boop boop beep bop 0000001 0000001.
I will be conducting the rest of the video in binary.
Oh my god. Okay, all right.